you don't know what solo leveling is, then I suggest watching my other video first. Links here in the top right corner or in the description down below. With all that out of the way, what is my biggest problem with solo leveling? Well, actually, it's basically the entire premise of the series. Sun Ji-woo is the only person in the world with the leveling system, hence the name. Everyone else who awakens as a hunter is just stuck where they are. Now sure, there are some extremely rare ways to increase your power level, but for all intents and purposes, there's no way to increase your power level. Sure, people can get better weapons and armor, and even just become better at fighting, but in the end, the ranking will never change. For a series that has a main character entirely based on the concept of never giving up and always pushing forward, for everyone else in the world, this is an entirely pointless concept, because no matter how much they train, no matter how good their armor and weapons are, they are never going to be better than someone who has a higher rank than them, because as I already said, they can't grow their power level. Now, without the concept of a player being introduced, you can take these labels simply as a natural born talent. It is simply that these people are born this way and nothing can be done to change it. But the very fact of Sun Jin-woo's existence proves this is not true. Other people are stuck at their ranking because they don't have the ability to get stronger. And I think this lessens the fact that the main character does get stronger. Because no matter how much I think he deserves the strength for what he has overcome, who among the hunters haven't overcome adversity? But what do they get from the system? Nothing. Now, if you've watched my other video on solo leveling, then you know I think this is still a series worth reading. But still, I have other problems I want to cover with this series. One of those again relates to Sun Ji-woo, and that is the massive amount of mana he has access to. His mana is used to summon and restore his army when he either dismisses them, or they are destroyed in combat. But his mana pool has reached the point of being able to completely restore his army several times over. Now this is not true at the start of the series, where there are several points where it's reasonable or even likely that he'll die. Now he's able to send his massive army against anyone without any real concern of them being destroyed, as they will simply just draw a bit more of his mana to be restored. In a way, I guess this isn't really a problem though. It's more of a feature. It is just something you see in all power fantasy works. It lets the reader revel in the destruction of enemies that at one point would have easily killed the main character. For some reason, this gives us a strange sense of pride, like we had anything to do with this power. And this is something I even enjoy doing myself, but at this point, I'm just tired of it. How many times do we need to see him wipe out his enemies and gain a few more levels before it gets boring? Honestly, I think I'm well past that point. It has already been over a month since I've read any of the manhwa. Talking with my friend Crytor over at BrainAFK, this seems to still be going on in the chapters that I've missed. But even still, I'm sure in the next week or two, I'll pick the series back up and quickly catch up with it again. Because, despite everything I've said, I still really enjoy reading it. But I have one last issue I want to cover in this video. And to be honest, I don't think it's an issue that a portion of the readers of the series even care about. And once I say what it is, you may think I mean all men, but as I myself am a man, clearly this is not true. Now, my issue is, I don't think this series passes the Bechdel test. I'm sure a lot of you know what the rules of this test are, even if you don't know the name of it. It says for a piece of work to pass this test, it has to meet a few requirements. First, there has to be at least 2 women in the story. Next, they must talk to each other. Lastly, and this is the important one, they must talk about something other than a man. Sometimes, there's a 4th requirement, and that's the women have to be named. This, I think, is to eliminate any token interactions that may appear in the work. This test is used to measure the representation of women in work, and I think solo leveling fails. Now sure, there are currently 142 chapters of solo leveling translated into English. So I'm sure if you look through the whole series, you could find a few examples of this not being true. But, hypothetical person in my head, let me ask you a few questions. What would be the women's motivation at that point in the story? Do you think it would be to get stronger or collect loot? Or do you think it's going to have something to do with Sun Ji-woo? I know what I would bet on. How about another question though? If I applied the Bechdel test to solo leveling again, but swapped woman for man, do you think I'd even make it to the halfway point of chapter 1 before the series passes? Well, I can tell you something. After checking chapter 1, it does pass the test before the halfway mark. You know what else it happens before? The introduction of the first female character, which happens about 3/4 of the way through chapter 1. That's right, 2 men are talking to each other before we even see the first woman. Now sure, there is probably some women in the background when we see the main character walking down the street. But as they're not named, I don't think they count. And you may say it's unfair to compare the two, but I don't see why it should be so difficult to write parts for both men and women that are at least somewhat equal. And sure, I'm betting about 80% of the readers of this series are men. I have no proof of this and I could easily be wrong, but this is a story that is typically read by a predominantly male readership. As such, you may not see the need for good female characters in it. But I can say as a man, I enjoy series a lot more when there are strong female characters in it, compared to just when the women are used as love interests for the main character. Even if I do have a favorite myself. But I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm the only person that has these problems with the series. And this video has gone on long enough, even if it took me a month to make it. Comment if you agree or disagree with me down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.